Indian sacred texts speak of so-called Vimanas, celestial vehicles in which the gods travel. Some believe that these were ancient spacecraft or UFOs. I believe that Vimanas originate from visions of the inner light of consciousness. Let us take a closer look at the Vimanas. In a poem by Hemachandra, a Jain scholar of the 11th century, Indra's vehicle is described as follows. Palaka, observing the Lord's command, made a car that filled the sky with a flood of light from 1,000 jeweled pillars, having eyes, as it were, in the form of windows, having teeth, as it were, in the form of balconies, having horripilation, as it were, in the form of finials, 500 yojanas high and 100,000 square, moving from the inference of a wish. The story goes on to describe how Indra, together with the Vimanas of other gods, flew through the sky and then gradually reduced the size of his vehicle before descending to Earth. Already here we find many of the features that repeatedly appear in descriptions of Vimanas. 1. They can fly and move through the sky. 2. They are often described as luminous and richly ornamented structures. 3. There is not just one of them, but many. 4. Vimanas can be enormous, filling space, yet they can also change their size. 5. They are moved by the power of will. All of this sounds rather fantastic. And of course, one can speculate about whether the ancient Indians possessed spacecraft or witnessed UFOs, as proponents of the ancient astronauts theory suggest. The spacecraft theory is understandable when we consider the highly detailed and fantastical descriptions of Vimanas found in later texts, such as the two great epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. There, Vimanas are portrayed, for example, as flying temples, palaces, or even entire cities. However, if we go back to the origins and examine how the sky-traveling vehicles of the gods are described in the oldest Indian texts, namely the Vedas, a much simpler picture emerges. Here the term Vimana is not yet used. Instead, we encounter the word Ratha, meaning a chariot. The texts frequently mention its decorated and radiant components, such as yokes, poles, axles, and above all, its wheels. If we abstract these components, what remains are simple luminous structures composed of lines and circles. We also find these simple structures in Indian visual representations. The Jains, for example, followers of an ancient Indian religion, depicted Vimanas as simple geometric forms, especially concentric circles. The same applies to Vimanas in Hindu and Buddhist Tantra. Here, Vimanas constitute the innermost area of mandalas, the dwelling place of the deity, which likewise appears as a center and circumference structure. Mandalas, in turn, form the ground plan of Indian temples. In this context, the term Vimana refers to the distinctive towers that cover the holiest inner sanctuary, the seat of the deity. If we view these towers from above, we once again recognize the same concentric center and circumference pattern. Yet just as important as their form is their connection to consciousness. In the Vedas, the vehicles of the gods are invoked and longed for through prayers and sacrificial rituals. Vimanas therefore function as a medium of relationship between gods and humans, a relationship that is nourishing both physically and spiritually. I therefore believe that Vimanas are neither mere fantasy nor spacecraft. Rather, they are nourishing and deeply desired visions of the shining structure floaters, experienced by Indian seers in intensified states of consciousness. These impressions became associated with familiar images, such as the chariot, were woven into stories, and over time were elaborated into ever more fantastical forms. Yet if we look closely, we can still discern the original simple pattern of threads and concentric circles beneath these later developments.